In Dungeons and Dragons, or any TTRPG, especially fantasy-based, rivers are your friends. Of course they are. Why wouldn't they be? But how would you use them? How do they actually affect your TTRPG games? Let's talk about it. So, rivers are your friends, first, most, and forthcoming in terms of world building. Things are built on rivers. People, creatures need water. Where do you get water? Lakes and rivers. Also, slow-moving rivers are perfect for moving large amounts of lumber and stone. Most major cities, most metropolises, most villages are going to be on some form of water. Those rivers are your form of water. So, in world building, place your villages, place your cities, place your metropolises, place anything on those types of bodies of water. That helps you with world building. If I'm trying to build an area, follow the river, use a river, and then put things along those rivers that keep people from going along them, such as thick forests on either side of the river and fast-moving parts of the river. Also, rivers that are deep are problematic. Even a river that's slow-moving, if it's deep, can have very strong currents. In fact, I live right next to the Jamestown River, and there are signs, do not go here. It's a wide river, perfect for paddleboarding on, and when you're on the surface of the river, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. People die in that river. Get too close, pulls you under. Rivers are also great for river monsters, because we're playing in a fantasy world, so give them river monsters. Things that keep you from going across the river. Bridges become entirely important. Rivers are a great thing when it comes to world building because it gives you a place to put your, well, cities, villages. Now, another thing that's actually wonderful when it comes to rivers in TTRPGs is it limits your mobility. A fast-moving river allows players to have to go a direction. They can try to cross a fast-moving river with a series of checks or be creative. Utilizing magic, possibly mold earth or mold stone, combined with animate trees and plants to create a natural bridge across a narrower section of the river. These are all things that can help your players be creative to get to a destination faster because they're on a time limit. Rivers can create an obstacle that your players have to overcome. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a giant obstacle or a huge river or a small river. It can just be something that you thought about that creates an encounter that requires brains over brawn to solve. Or maybe the barbarian decides to uproot a tree that's large enough and place it over the river and using his bronze because he's a Goliath barbarian. That is also something you absolutely can do. Rivers can both create places of, well, life. They can also create places of hostility. Fast, roaring rivers that kill people. Now, on top of that, rivers can actually create a dynamic encounter environment. Rivers can both have monsters that are inside of them, they can have bridges that are crossing them, and they can try to have combat that's inside the river, both fighting an opponent that's outside of the river with maybe some monster or creature that's inside the river that's pecking and being problematic to the party. It can also create environmental challenges where they have to fight against the current to not get thrown down the river. Mechanics and theatrics, rivers provide both of those, as well as bits and pieces of world building. Rivers are a major part of our older society. If you go back to when the United States was first being founded, in fact, those of us that were born a long time ago, back in the 1900s, will remember a game called the Oregon Trail, where most of our people died crossing the river, or of dysentery. Both equally bad. That was a fun part, right? Of the game is when you died, because you died 90% of the time. And when you did succeed, it was exciting. Rivers were part of it. There's lots of rivers that go across the United States. There's lots of rivers that are across the UK. There are major rivers with major trade routes in both India and China, and you get the drift. Rivers are a major part of the ecology as well. There are places where rivers create bends and breaks where water will seep off into flatlands and get overwhelmed, creating marshes and bogs. Not necessarily via lakes, but via those rivers. Rivers can actually create specific ecological events. If you have a bend in the river, well, some of that water may flow directly through, creating a soggy area where a black dragon may live. There's a swamp here because of the way the river bends. When you have lots of rainfall, it flows over and into that lane, and then it's got nowhere to go, so it creates a swampy environment that becomes acidic as it starts to actually evaporate over time. Rivers are the creators of those things. Rivers bring both life and death to certain areas. So remember, when you're world building, use those rivers. When you're encounter building, remember, small rivers do exist too. Rivers can pop out of nowhere when you have a strong torrential downpour. Rivers can also create problems, wipe out entire villages. In fact, we just had Hurricane Helene, and not to toss salt on wounds, but some places that you never thought would have been wiped out were wiped out by flash flooding from rivers and dams. That's another thing. Have humans, have creatures stopped up a river and created a dam? What happens when that dam breaks? Does it create another lake, which then in our fantasy world may bring monsters out of the ground? There's lots of things you can do with rivers when it comes to TTRPGs. But when you're world building, when you're encounter building, use them. Make sure they're there. But not just negative things. They bring life, they bring trade, they bring ways of transportation between two villages to shorten the trip. And if you choose to do that, maybe there is a river monster on the way giving you a fun river encounter on a boat. In the end, don't forget about rivers, because they are an amazing thing that you get to use as a dungeon master. And so if you like this video, as always, we're always about giving tips. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit all those buttons and do the thing. And we'll see you when, hold on, we're not done. If you're tired of Wizards of the Coast and you want to see something different, pay attention after this. We've got a message about Hero Soul and a way you can help create and be part of a new community that we're creating now. It's going to be free and paid. It's free. We always like free, right? Yeah, stick around, guys. And as always, we'll see you when? We'll see you next time. Welcome to Hero Soul. So what is Hero Soul? Hero Soul is a free version of D&D based upon the Creative Commons license that WotC actually gave to us. I was waiting for someone to come out with a free version of D&D or an alternative. And instead, what I've got is a lot of very different games, a lot of very cool games when the whole OGL debacle. And WotC doing stupid stuff all the time, creating all sorts of calamity. I wanted to play Dungeons & Dragons, but I was tired of supporting WotC. So what have I done? I'm creating Hero Soul. We have a Patreon. Join our Patreon and be part of the process of the creation of this game. I'm not going to post a ton of stuff here on the YouTube channel about Hero Soul. I'm not. But what I am going to do is post a whole bunch of it on our Patreon. If you're a free member, be part of it. You will have access to Hero Soul. You'll get the PDFs as they're updated, as they get posted. You'll also have access to everything else. If you're a paid member, you're going to get behind the scenes videos and all that kind of stuff. The bottom line is, if you want a free version of Dungeons & Dragons that you can download for free, join Hero Soul and be part of the conversation. Don't like something that's in the rules? Speak your mind and let's have a conversation and see if we should change it or not. And in the end, you will download the free version of the PDF. And we're talking about a free, full version with monsters, new lore, new races, new ways of doing things, but all based upon the Creative Commons license. You can take Hero Soul and smack it right dab in 5th edition, and it will function just fine. So join us with our Patreon and Hero Soul and let your voice be heard in the creation. This is not a Kickstarter. I don't care. We will eventually have a printed book. We'll get there. But as a community, let's create this game together. Join us and let's start our journey with Hero Soul. I need some help. I'm by myself. I need people to do Discord. I need people to do all that kind of stuff. But right now, I swear to God, I just saw something behind that tree as it's getting dark out here. So I'm going to leave. Join us at the Patreon. Let's do some Hero Soul development, and let's have a free version of Dungeons & Dragons, which is owned by the community. See you then. As always, next time. Yay!